I have played against the Beth Harmon bots on my channel, as you probably know, but still I have not faced the biggest challenge of all, and that is Miss Beth Harmon at the age of 22. So we have played against all the Beth bots, all of them but the strongest. So today we're gonna try the impossible. We're gonna try to take on this Mission Impossible and beat the strongest ever Beth Harmon bot. Beth at the age of 22 is rated 2,700. Wanna see my rating? That was me when I used to have long hair and I competed at the Olympics, at the Chess Olympiad. This was my top rating, 2393. I virtually have crossed 2400. That's how I could get the International Master title, because that's one of the requirements. So my peak rating is 300 points less than Miss Beth Harmon. 300! That's a lot! Haha. Beth has been dreaming of playing for the World Championship for 2 years and aspires to be the youngest World Chess Champion ever. Do you dare to stand in her way? I'm gonna try. I don't know if I can, but we're gonna get started. Beth, all the best. Good luck to you. Not that you need it. Not that you need it. Let's go. I chose the white pieces. That's the one advantage I get, that I get to play with the white pieces. Let me move the sub-goal from there because it's covering what she's saying. One of my favorite battlegrounds. I have been analyzing lines on the ceiling from this position since I was 8. I know, Beth, I know. I wish I could see the pieces on the ceiling, but I don't. I do not see anything when I look up. I do not see anything. Knight f3, I'm just gonna go for a traditional development of pieces. Oh, she's playing the Petrov, that is the Russian defense. What shall we play against that, I wonder? I wonder. There are many lines you can play against this. You can go knight c3, you can take the pawn, you can play d4. All sorts of lines. Let's go knight c3 and see if she goes knight c6, bishop b5. This could be quite symmetrical. Everything is the same so far. Do I remember these lines much? Not really, not really, but I'm gonna castle because castling is good. Castle as soon as you can is what we teach to our PogChamp students, so I'm gonna do the same. Everything is a mirror position so far, so let's make it different. Let's make it different by pushing this pawn. Opening up for the bishop. She does the same. Stop copying me, Beth. Even if that's the best move, but just stop copying me, please. Let's get this bishop out and see what she does about the pin. She takes my knight so that I cannot hop onto d5. Makes sense, but now at least this pawn is guarding the d4 square, so she cannot come here either after she pins my knight. This is smart to take here first because I no longer can jump here and take advantage of the pin. But I've got a pair of bishops for now. I have not taken her knight and I don't really want to. I don't want the position to be that symmetrical. Do I want to prevent this pin or not? Bishop g4 could be her next move. If I want to prevent it, I can push h3. And that's good against back rank checkmates too, as you guys know. Or I could just move the queen so that after bishop g4 this is not pinned. At the same time, my knight doesn't really have a good square to go to, so I think I'm gonna include this push against bishop g4, some space for my king. She's copying me! Beth, stop it! No, this makes sense because if I take, she'll take back with the queen. If I retreat, I wonder if she wants to push g5 because that's quite a committal move, but she may want to do it because I either have a good sacrifice on g5, give up the piece, or if I don't, I'm gonna have to retreat to g3. Then she could play knight h5. What's that position like? Can I take on e5? This is hanging, takes here, takes back. These are hanging. Very complex position. I could also just retreat here and say I'm not interested in any of that mess, and I think that's gonna be my choice, because the bishop is standing well here. And I don't really have a way of taking advantage of the pin. But now that I have retreated the bishop, she immediately pushes in the center. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. If I take, she'll take back with the knight. That's attacking my bishop, attacking my pawn. It's not a disaster, but she's gonna take my bishop So I will no longer have a pair of bishops. At the same time, she's threatening my pawn, so I don't really have much of a choice here. I'm gonna take, and after knight takes d5, I could just simply play queen d2 because that guards the pawn, and when she takes, if I want to, I could take back with the pawn to open up the f5 for my rook. I can also include this move at some point to double her pawns. Do I want to? Normally that would make sense, to try to damage the opponent's pawn structure. Will I take it now? Will I not take it? I think I will take it. Then she will have a knight versus... she will have a bishop versus my knight. That's what I was gonna say. So let's do it. Let's do this. I don't think she has the time. She can take here, but she didn't have the time to take this pawn because I would have attacked the knight. This I don't mind because I was gonna take back with the pawn regardless. So this is what I was thinking. I'm gonna have a position where my knight is fighting against the bishop. The position is pretty open, so I would say that the bishop should be quite powerful, but at the same time I'm hoping that I'm gonna find a good square for my knight later and my pawn structure is healthier. Even though we both have doubled pawns, my doubled pawns are still in one block. Those 4 pawns are together as buddies, while her pawns are isolated from each other. So my structure is better, while she has a bishop, which is a long range piece versus a short range piece, and it's more open, this position, than closed. Knights are really good in closed positions, bishops are better in open positions. But I'm hoping again that my better structure and maybe a maneuver like this in the future could get me to a good square. Not that I can do it now, this knight cannot come here. I'm just saying that that could be an idea for the future, to get the knight to a better post like f5. f5 would be a really cool post. Healthy and strong pawns, yes, that's what we are going for, Jess. Healthy and strong pawns. And for Castlemania, I already have this rook, indeed, as you guys are saying. If you know what Castlemania is, yeah, I already have that. Thank you for the string dog, happy to see you, Luis. How are you doing? I'd love to see Anna versus Beth IRL. Yeah, I wouldn't mind to challenge Anya Taylor, definitely. Now, as for this position, I'm thinking whether to... couple of things I'm considering. To move the pawn to e4, so that I'm controlling more squares in the center, also d5 and f5, and I'm stopping her from pushing f5. I mean, not fully stopping, but if she were to push f5 afterwards, then this pawn is isolated and weak. I think I want to do that before she pushes either f5 or e4 even. I don't really want her to open up even more the position and get to my e3 pawn. So let's push. Let's push! Yeah, one slight issue with my pawn structure, you guys are right, is that my pawns are on light squares. But even though that's oftentimes a drawback, it can also work in your favor if your pawns cannot be targeted and they just restrict the opponent's bishop. So yes, it's very true that she will most likely place the bishop on e6 and my pawns are almost all of them are on light squares. At the same time, if she cannot get to my pawns, then I'm gonna have one on c4, d3, e4. It also means that I'm taking away a lot of squares from her. So it has its it has its drawbacks. Today I don't feel like I can express myself. It has its drawbacks, but also some pluses. If you keep your pawns alive, because if they start capturing my pawns, they're gonna fall one by one because they are all the same color. Now let's see. She's playing f6 to strengthen her structure. But that means that now I could jump to h4, because this is a square I was looking at earlier for my knight. And then that knight could hop over to f5 or g6. After knight h4, I'm threatening to win some material, because that would be a fork on g6. The queen and the rook are hanging. Of course she will not blunder it, but even if she does not, even if she prevents my knight move to g6, I could still go to f5 later. And that's the square where I want to be. So I think this is great. I think this is what I want. The only question is if there's anything like queen to c5 check, which would give a check and attack my pawn. So if there's anything concrete that that she could play as a counterattack after knight h4. Is queen c5 check strong or not? Am I afraid of queen c5 check or not? Do I care about that hanging pawn? Also, why did she not take it already? Now I'm just thinking, she had queen c5 a move earlier too. After e4, she had this move, check and attacking the pawn. She didn't play it because maybe then I could have gone d4 and this pawn too is hanging. So now after f6, what changes is that she's guarding this pawn. So if I play knight h4, she probably wants to give this check then. Because after d4, she could take my pawn on c3, and when I take on e5, she takes back. At the same time, I feel like that's a bit slow for black. If I get to do this knight g6 attack, let's see. So my calculation is knight h4, queen c5 check. If not queen c5, I'm happy, because I'm gonna get my knight to g6 or f5. So the only critical line, I think, after knight h4 is queen c5 check, because that could win a pawn. I'm thinking after queen c5, d4, because if she takes, I take back. If she does not take but wants the pawn, that would be d4, queen takes c3, this pawn is hanging, I could take on e5. If she takes with the queen, I have knight g6 attacking the queen and the rook. I should move my king to h1 so that queen e5 is not a check. So that's again knight h4, queen c5, king h1, queen takes c3. No, sorry. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong, because I can't do both d4 and move the king. Oh, I understand now what she wants. I understand, I think, what she wants, because the line I was calculating is not correct. Queen c5, d4, queen takes c3, pawn takes, queen takes, knight g6. She has again queen c5 check because my king is still on g1. Because if I want to move the king, then I have not played d4. I can't do both. I cannot do both. I cannot push the pawn and move the king at the same time. So that's her plan. She wants my pawn. Beth, stop. Stop it. At the same time, I could just ignore that. Either move the king or push the pawn. I don't like that much if my king is in the corner, but it would be out of those checks. Will I play that or will I push c4? So I will want to play knight h4, but I don't think it's the best right now. I think I should care about that c3 pawn. Couple of ways in which I can deal with this check. I could move my king in advance, I could move the pawn in advance so that it's not hanging, I could move the queen here so that it's guarding the pawn. That's also good for connecting the rooks, and then Castlemania. Castlemania on their file. So queen d2 is certainly one of the options I'm looking at. But I also like that after knight h4 I could place the queen here. So I'm not sure. Anyway, let's do queen d2. Pros and cons for many of those positions, but this overall is a solid one. And now knight h4. If she plays f5, I'm gonna take it with the knight. Or knight g6. I have knight g6 and then d4 actually. Yeah, that would have one material. So if after knight h4 she plays f5, I can go here, attack the queen and the rook, and she cannot escape with the check because I have d4. Thank you so much for the subscription, NJT. Thank you. Okay, what's next? So I have played knight h4. She has moved the rook away from the fork. She's moving it to an open file. Makes perfect sense. But it's interesting that she's using the f rook to go to b8. And she's not afraid that she's gonna get her other rook stuck in the corner. That's an interesting way of thinking. I guess she will just want to double rooks on the b file so she doesn't mind. Because another way of placing the rooks could have been rook here and rook here. She's not doing that. She's going for this other setup, kinda suggesting that she wants to double rooks on the b file. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, what do I do next? I can either challenge her rook on the b file by moving my rook here, Or I could continue my attack on the king side by placing the knight here. And that was my earphone falling out. 1 second. 1 second. So, if I play knight f5, I think she's gonna take my knight, because the knight otherwise would be very strong on f5. I think she's gonna trade it. Then I can take back with the pawn or with the rook. This is gonna be so similar to the game I played against the Levy bot. Do you guys remember the game against Gotham Chess? The bot? I mean, he really is a bot in real life too, but I played against Levy's bot, and we had a very similar structure after trading the last minor piece. We had a very similar structure after trading on f5. And then she took over... It wasn't Beth. Levy. Levy took over with the queen coming to c5 and all those. It wasn't exactly this structure, but a similar theme. So I don't know if I should go for that immediately, or stop Beth from doubling on the b file. I can't fully stop her, I guess, and the issue is if I move this rook, this pawn will be hanging. She can either take it or come here with the queen. My queen side is really vulnerable, and the king side attack, as much as I want to put it together, it's not that strong. It's not that strong. So she wants to double rooks, and this would be one way, but this rooks on the 2nd and 7th rank, right? Rooks on the 2nd and 7th. Placing the rook here directly and then doubling is probably what she's looking at. Queen could come here, lots of pressure on my pawn. I'm thinking either now or very soon I should push this pawn to c4 to guard my pawn. And then the queen could come here if needed. So if c4, allowing rook b2, I could then bring my rook here. She doubles. And then I could take and chase her away. If queen b4, trade rooks. Trade rooks and then trade the queen. Do I want that endgame? I don't really think that's advantageous to me. If anything, it's advantageous to black, because black would have the control of the open file. The only open file in this position is the b file, so I should be very careful. I should be very careful about this. If I move rook b1, can she just take and take my pawn? I mean, it's pretty greedy. It's pretty greedy, but she could get away with it, because that is attacking my rook, and then she can drop the bishop back. Because if she... Let's say I move this rook here. If she takes immediately, I could probably take here, trade this, and then close the bishop's diagonal with c4. I may not be able to capture the bishop, but at least it would be stuck on a2. Oh man, this is already complex, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. I was hoping that this knight f5 move will give me some edge, but now I feel like I need to be fighting really hard to equalize, because I feel like her idea, her plan here on the queen side is faster than my one on the king side. If knight f5 and we get this trade, then at least the bishop would be off of the board. But then she plays rook b2. Then I could come here, and rook b8, queen c1, queen a3. That's so passive. I'm gonna end up being in a very passive position. I don't like that. I don't like that. Thank you so much, Luna C, for the subscription. Thanks for that. Oh, for gifting a sub to Kaliso. Thank you. Thank you for gifting a sub. Okay, I know I'm using a lot of time here, but it's because I feel like this is critical. There are moments in your games that are critical decisions, because if you go for the wrong one, it probably will be too late later to turn back. So I'm thinking longer here in order to try to come up with the best decision. Not that it's easy. I feel like I may have been a bit too optimistic with my knight jump, and I ignored that her plan on the queen side is quite fast. Pretty fast. So which one will I go for? Rook b1. Can I give up the a2 pawn? I might try that. At least that's active, but I'm scared. I'm scared that pawn's gonna fall. That pawn's gonna fall. I wouldn't think this much if it was timed. I am aware of that. But I also think that I want to make this as instructive as possible and also try to play the best move. At the same time, I feel like here I can't decide which one is the best move because Black has taken the initiative here already. I feel like I'm on the defensive, trying to face this b file, doubling off the rook, trying to face rook b2 as well. What also makes me worried is that after this rook move, she may just play something like queen to a3 to put even more pressure on the queen side and this pawn. And I don't know what's my follow-up, how I'm gonna save this pawn on the long run. Will I just move this rook? So if she takes... That's not how she takes. Rook b1. Rook takes, then she could take the pawn. But at least I have the upper hand there, don't I? For a moment. I'm gonna have a pawn down, but some initiative. Then I could play knight f5. Well, it may be bad, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try this one and see if she wants the pawn. She plays queen a3, but now, because I left this rook here, I know it's super passive, but at least I can push this to block the diagonal. It's not pleasant. It's certainly not pleasant. And after c4, she probably will play something like rook b2 to then double rooks. And I'm struggling. I'm really struggling on the queen side. Now I wish my knight could come back because I need my pieces on the queen side. I don't have time for my attack. I don't really have time for that. Or I could play knight f5 and see if she wants to trade. But even after the trade, she'll go rook b2. And I'm stuck on the queen side. Well, I guess if she does that, I could takes queen c1. Super passive. Rook b8. Ugh, I don't like that. I really don't, but I might have to do that. I might have to do that. How do I survive this? How do I survive this position? Not easy. Not an easy one. Why did I not push c4 in the previous move? Because I was worried about rook b2. I think ideally I should have had these pieces already here. So in hindsight, I think that knight h4 wasn't the best move, and I should have pushed c4 earlier, and then I wouldn't be in this much of a trouble. But I cannot take my moves back. I cannot. And I don't have rook b3 because she's gonna take with the bishop. So this is the moment when I wish my pawn was here, yes. I do wish, but I cannot. I cannot make two moves at the same time. Beth is strong. She's using my inaccurate moves to take the initiative, and now I think there's just no way out of it unless I could do this, because at least that stops Black from playing rook b2. But I'm guessing if I just play rook b4, she'll attack me. She will play a5 or c5, and then I'm forced again to react. So it doesn't help. Does not help. What do I do? Queen c1, she can take this. So I'm considering c4 to at least block the bishop, or knight f5 to at least trade it. But in both cases, I think she'll end up playing rook b2. And I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm one move too short, one move too late to place my rook on b3. One move too late. I can't do anything with the knight here apart from having it traded. it's gonna be decided on the queen side. I wish I could just shift the focus to the king and attack, but I don't have enough attacking pieces. Everything is happening on the queen side right now. I misevaluated this earlier when I played knight to h4. Alright, so I was discussing here all the issues my position has. Everything is happening on the queen side and I was trying to get my knight to f5. I could still get it there, but the position is falling apart for me on the queen side. It's very passive. Rook b2 is coming. And yeah, not an easy one. How am I going to try to survive this? What's my best chance for survival? Because I'm clearly in an inferior position here. I'm gonna have to try to survive, and it's not an easy one to do. Not an easy one. What would be a good survival attempt? I feel like if I push c4, so c4 to block the bishop, rook b2, then if I play queen c1, she can double rooks on the b5. My pieces are stuck here, but maybe if I trade, if rook takes, I have rook b1 to try to trade that. She could also just go rook b8, takes, queen takes, because that rook endgame is not looking good for me. Definitely not looking good. Oh man, why is this such a difficult position? I mean, I know why is it such a difficult position, because I made a couple of inaccurate moves. So I'm paying the price. I'm paying the price right now. Well, let's do it. I don't think I can get out of this. I don't think I can get out of this. Something's gonna fall. Unfortunately, this pawn is constantly in the air. This is a threat. This. So on the long run, this is a struggle. Let's push. Yeah, and then she plays immediately, of course, the best move, because this is really strong. Whether I take and then play queen c1, or whether I go queen c1 immediately and then she plays rook b8, it's gonna lead to the same position in my opinion. An endgame where I can trade, but it doesn't really lead to anything good for me. My rook will be stuck on a1. And if I go for the rook endgame, man, that's a sad one. That's a sad one. Now I really want my knight here. Imagine I could have my knight on c3, everything guarded. But that's not how chess works. It's too late. I already went in the opposite direction. I wanted to attack on the king side, and now it's too late. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I could do something. If I give up my a2 pawn. Yeah, what if I let her take? First of all, she may not even take. She possibly just wants to double rooks. I'm thinking if in the meantime, imagine I could get my knight to f5, take here, sacrifice the knight, but at least have checks around the king. That would be cool, but I think after knight f5 she'll take. I think she'll just take my knight and then double rooks. And that's sad. That really is sad. Oh, Anna, you're in trouble. You're in big, big trouble. What's my best chance? What's my best chance for survival? The issue is if I'm gonna go super passive like queen c1, rook here, she's threatening to play queen c3, and then this pawn is hanging too. It's a pain. My position is a pain. It's a pain. Why not rook takes b2? Because it's gonna lead to the same. If I take, I mean, I possibly will end up doing that, but takes. If queen c1, rook b8, that endgame is terrible for me. I'm gonna end up losing either the a pawn or the c pawn. I possibly need to do that, but it's a sad one. Maybe if I take and then try to create some kind of a miraculous counterattack on the king side and ignore that this pawn is hanging, maybe that's my best chance. What if We give up on the queen side, because we are totally going down on the queen side, but instead of worrying about my pawns, I could take and bring the rook here, giving up this pawn, but then there could be some knight f5, there could be some rook f6, there could be something happening. I mean, it's most likely nothing, but let's go for it, because at least my pieces will be alive. I'm gonna lose the pawn, I'm gonna lose this, but at least I feel like I have something to play for. I'm gonna try to play on the king side. She doesn't even take my pawn. She doesn't even want it. She's like, I can take this pawn whenever I want to. All right, Beth. Game on. Game on. Game on. Coming back from the dead, I feel like, because I already was so worried about my position. If I move knight f5 now, I still think she will take it. She can't really let me sacrifice here, I think. If my queen and rook are here, that would be too much. So knight f5, she takes. Now I take back with the rook or the pawn, and then possibly she'll take my pawn. Oh, do I have anything as compensation? Or could I, instead of this, do something like this? Threaten queen h6. That makes some sense. Even if it's not high hopes, but it's something. The issue is even my own king is vulnerable if queen d4, rook b1. Even my king is vulnerable, not just her king can be a target, but my one too, of course. I have seen better positions than this for white. I certainly have. I certainly have seen better positions than this. I could go here, yes, to attack these, but am I in time for anything? Especially since she could just decide to trade, because the endgame is good for her. I don't want an endgame because my position will fall apart on the queen side. My knight is not helping. So any endgames here are pretty bad for me. Pretty bad. Okay, let's think. Why do I keep doing this? I want to listen to music. I want to listen to music. Knight to g6 is the other option, as you guys are saying, to try to give this check and pick up the pawn. How will she react to that, actually? Maybe it's not as obvious. Let's try to get this. Knight g6. I mean, she could face it with a move like king h7, and then if I play knight e7, she has a couple of ways to guard the pawn, but at least she has to react to it. That could be a good option. Let's do it. Although she could also play knight g6, king f7, because I cannot take the pawn, it's guarded by the queen. Knight g6, king f7. Maybe that's the end of the line, because if I have to come back with the knight, then it wasn't a good idea. Such a pity that my queen is not on the light squares, so I could bring my queen here. It's not there, it's on d2 instead of e2. What a pain. What a pain, this position. What a pain. It is a pain, ladies and gentlemen. It is. So, knight f5 she'll take. If I take with the rook, then she can take the pawn, for instance, bring the rook here, or give the check, rook b1. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be enough. If I take with the pawn, it closes the file for my rook. My position is just worse, so at this stage it's about damage control and try to create some kind of a counterplay, even in a worse position, because you still need to fight and you should try to make at least a draw out of a bad position. Try to fight, see if you can create enough counterattack, maybe a perpetual check, that would be great. But it's not that simple. Ain't that simple. I possibly will end up doing this at some point, either now or later, because I don't really have anything else to do with my knight. Unless I try to bring the queen here and then go for this knight g6 idea. But queen e2 feels so slow. It feels so slow to make this move. She could even just take and play then rook b2. I just don't really believe that I can go that slow, but maybe I have to. Maybe I have to. Let's try. I think my position is bad, so we're gonna try. She takes the pawn. Now, a couple of things. We could now play knight g6, because then there's no more king f7. But this is not that big of a threat. She could prevent it in so many ways. Or she could just even knight g6, she could play rook b2, attack this. The whole second rank is an issue. The whole second rank is an issue. But you know what? We're gonna go for it. Because I don't have anything else to do. I don't have anything else to do. So, king h7. She steps out of this check so that I can't pick up the pawn. I can still play knight e7 and attack the pawn, which is what I possibly will do. Or queen h5 to guard the knight, but there's no follow-up. It looks like there could be something, but I don't think there is actually anything. After queen h5, I would assume she takes the pawn. All my pawns are falling once the c2 pawn is gone. Queen h5, queen takes c2, then knight e7, but I don't really believe in that attack. It just... Maybe I should believe in it. Do I have nothing but praying in that position for something to work? Knight e7 now, or queen h5. But after queen h5 she could play bishop f7, pin my knight, and that could be game over. That could be game over if she pins my knight, because I can't defend it, and if I give this check she takes it and guards the bishop, so that could be the end of the line. You know what, we're gonna go knight e7 first. Knight e7 first. She's playing queen a3. Oh, sad. Anna sad. I can't take the pawn because of queen c5. Check, picking up the knight. And what she's doing is that now I'm gonna have to come to f5. I made a whole round around that square. I've gone to h4, g6, e7, and now eventually I'm gonna have to settle for knight f5, the move I didn't really want to play because she's gonna take it. And I want to have more pieces to have more counter chances, but I cannot. She's threatening my knight. Knight e7 was a bad move, but the position was already bad, and yeah, sad. Sad. She doesn't even take? Wait! Okay, wait a second! Why is she saying she doesn't need to take? I was so sure she was gonna take because I think this knight has some potential. That knight has some potential. Why is she not taking? If I play queen g4 to threaten checkmate, does she want to play g6? Maybe that's what she wants because my knight is pinned, but that looks a bit scary for the king. At least I could scare her. I could scare her a little bit. I mean, it's not much, but it's honest work. Nah, the position is not the best, but we have hope. We've got some hope here. I could play queen h5 too, but am I threatening anything? Am I threatening to sacrifice? Okay, so either queen g4 or queen h5. Those are the two moves I'm looking at. Because at least after that, if she takes on f5, I can take here with the queen. So that's progress. That's progress for me. If queen h5, she can't play g6 because I take here. But am I threatening anything is the real question. Is there any threat? I'm looking at sacrifice it with knight h6 and rook f6. If I get that, then certainly yeah, but will I get that? Let's go for it. Let's go. Let's go for it. Take an adjournment. Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could just analyze this with my team and come back tomorrow. Because if queen g4, g6, is there anything for me? Queen h4 takes my piece. I take here. Bishop is hanging. A tough one. I don't know if that's enough for anything, that sacrifice. Because what else she would want to do after queen g4? I think she wants to play g6. I think. So I either play queen h5, but then she will not play g6. She will play any other move she wants, like this check, rook here, push the a pawn. Question is if I have any real threats after queen h5. Feels like I could try, because then I have rook f6 if I get there, but she could easily prevent that. If it's an actual threat, she will prevent it. But if she prevents it, she'll have to go a bit passive, either with the rook or with the queen. I mean, to be fair, it's not that passive to play queen f8, because then she could go next move queen f7, and she's paving the path for the free path for the pass pawn. This is a difficult position. And also on that same note, even after queen g4, if she doesn't want to push, she can go queen f8. It's passive, but it gets out of the pass pawn's way. So overall, I don't think it's bad for black to do that. What's my best chance here? I'm gonna play queen h5 and see. See if she lets me... See if she lets me sacrifice. She does not. She does not let me sacrifice. Just when I started hoping, just when I started having hopes about this piece sacrifice and rook f6, she stops it, because now after the capture, rook f6 is a bit too much to give up a knight and the rook. She stopped me from doing it, and again, it's the same idea. She's getting out of the way of the pass pawn. She could also play next move queen f7 to push my queen back, because the queen trade is good for her, not for me. Sag. I think we're going down in this game. I don't think we have enough attack. I don't think, unfortunately, that we have enough. An idea would be a rook lift, rook f3, rook to g3 to attack this pawn, but I think she will push me away before that happens. I think she'll go queen f7, try to trade the queens. I either come back with the queen, or after the trade, rook g3 to attack, but that's just one threat, a one move threat. g6. I'm gonna get my knight trapped if I go into e7 after g6. This is a bad position. But what can we do to make it more interesting? How can we try to stir the water and create chaos? Because chaos would be here our only chance. I feel like any endgame is losing. We're a pawn down and this is a pass pawn. Marching toward a1. Not cool. I wish I could just sacrifice here, but again, that's exactly what she prevented. This is slow. Then if I move the queen away to then bring the rook here, I mean, that's still something. Certainly not enough, but we'll need to try. Wait a second, she's threatening g6. I'm just realizing that after queen f8 she could push g6 because this is guarded. She's threatening g6 because I no longer have queen h6. That's sad. She's playing really well, and the problem is that if I go for knight h4 to threaten queen g6, she'll just defend the light squares with queen f7 or bishop f7. I think queen f7 is more natural. Great position. Great position. What's an attempt to survive? How can we try? How can we try? It's just a very sad position. It's just sad. Because if I go for the A pawn, like I could attack this, but G6. It's painful. So I need to step out of that pawn fork. I could bring my knight in this direction, but I think it's too late. This pawn is gonna be very strong in no time. That pawn is gonna be very strong in no time. Anyway, I need to keep making moves. I'm gonna place the knight here. She's pushing the pass pawn, as it should be. That soon we'll be very close to the promotion square, and I'm gonna be in trouble. So my only chance would be to create some attack against the king. But she's guarding everything. If knight g4, with the idea of taking here, I think she'll capture my knight. I can take back with the pawn to try to push g5. So that's something. I think I'm gonna try, but I don't quite believe in it, to be fair. Because this is a fast one. That pawn is too fast. She doesn't even care that I can take this because I guess she wants to give this check and then pick up my knight. Good point. Again, that queen c5 check is always in the air. So knight takes c5, queen c5 check. And my knight is gonna be lost. I'm not even threatening to take the pawn. I'm not even threatening to capture anything. Because she has guarded everything with this queen from f8. I could try queen h4 to then threaten this. Even that doesn't feel like anything strong. Especially since by the time I could take, let's say I play queen h4, by the time I could take here, her pawn will be on a2, and she's gonna promote. She will not even care about my sacrifice. She'll not care. I can play rook a1 to stop the pawn, but it's only temporary. It's only a temporary fix. I'm gonna play that, but I think it will just postpone the inevitable. Rook b2 threatening a2 and rook b1. Because this pawn is the least. She wants to push a2 and rook b1. I can come back to e3. How many times I'm going back and forth with my knight? a2 and then rook b1. So I could momentarily stop this idea by bringing the queen back. Then she'll play queen b8 to threaten rook b1. That's a nice finish to the game. I think I'm gonna play it out so that she can have those pieces where they are standing so beautifully. She played queen b4 first, the same idea, all these things. Rook b1, a2. If I go back to now try to sacrifice, I think it's too late. She will eventually take. Will she take though? She doesn't really want to take. But again, knight g4 is still not a big threat. Queen e8 to attack the bishop. But this pawn is running. She'll not care about that bishop unless I have some kind of a perpetual by taking it. Queen e8. What does she do? Well, I'm gonna try, because if I go passive defense, it's already lost. This is at least a bit more exciting. This is at least a bit more exciting. Watch yourself. Well, Beth, I know it's too late. My position is lost. My position is lost. I can go here or here. I don't think it changes much the fact that she will push the pawn and get a new queen. So the only question is, if she gives up the bishop, will I have perpetual? And that's what I want. I want to give perpetual check. I want to give perpetual check because that's my only hope out of this situation, is that I can constantly give check to her king. So if I want to achieve that, king f2 or king h2. The king seems more sheltered on h2. At the same time, this one would guard the knight too. What is her plan exactly with the bishop, I'm wondering? Does she just want to play Does she just want to play bishop g8? Because then I have knight f5. Maybe this is not terribly lost. Okay, it possibly is. But if I have my king on h2 and threatening this, let's do it. King h2, if a2, I'm taking the bishop. She's sacrificing the bishop. She's giving up the bishop because she didn't have where to go. The only square she had for the bishop was g8, but then I would have had knight f5. And finally I would be back in the game. So she's giving up the bishop. If I take with the king, guess she wants to play queen h1. King g3. Queen here. I can defend the knight. It's about this pawn though, so she's giving up the piece because she will have a new queen soon. How do I achieve this perpetual check? Can I... If I take with the pawn... And I don't mind that she's gonna push, because then I could have my queen coming here to then give this check. So she will have two queens, but if I get my queen to f5, isn't it just perpetual? King g8, queen back, king f7. That's not the diagonal I was gonna draw. So I'm just comparing where my king should be. I'm just comparing where my king should be, whether I want to take with the king or whether I want to take with the pawn. In both cases, she will get a new queen in 2 moves. Is there a difference when it comes to takes with the pawn? Will she try to attack my knight? But if queen e1, I guess I could just ignore that my knight is hanging and I just go for this perpetual check threat. Because I think that's strong enough, the perpetual. Queen f5, king g8, queen c8. Once the bishop is off of the board, I mean. King f7, queen d7, king g6, queen f5. I think I have perpetual. Unless she will prevent it with a move like queen e1, queen e6, queen f2 check to guard this square, knight g2, and then she pushes. Man, that would be annoying. But I think that's her way of preventing it. I think that's what she wants. I think I finally have discovered what she wants. Now if I take with the king, how does that change this plan? Queen e1. But then I could play knight f5. Huh. Then I could play knight f5. Okay, I feel like there's a chance here. So again, I'm just comparing whether to take with the pawn or with the king, and the difference I see, if I take with the pawn, I think she'll bring the queen here to guard this square, because my one chance against her promotion is that I give perpetual, and that is g takes. If she just pushes queen e6, queen f5, I have perpetual. Even if she plays g6, I'm gonna go queen d7, queen d8, repeat on the 7th and 8th rank constantly. So that would be good, but I'm more worried about this, 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 and this at the same time. Ah yeah, if I move the king then a2 and she'll promote with a check, and if knight g2 she'll still promote and my knight cannot help. Maybe I need to take with the king. It just looks so scary. It looks scary to take with the king, but it might be safer. To not take the bishop at knight f5. I mean, it's an interesting idea, because if she takes, I take back with the pawn and then I'm threatening queen g6. But if knight f5, I'm threatening knight e7 too. You guys have a point. Wait a second. Wait a second, is knight f5 a better move? Maybe I get too excited here. Knight f5. Knight f5, is that a better move? Knight f5. If she takes, I take with the pawn and queen g6. She cannot stop me from that square, can she? And if she doesn't take, I could still take the bishop next move. Or I could jump here and threaten checkmate. You guys are saying if knight f5, queen f1. Yeah, but then I take the bishop. Don't I win some time if then I take? So I still want to take the bishop, but at least my knight is already on f5. I feel like that makes sense. You know what? We're gonna go for it. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna go for it. I don't think she'll take the knight, because then how do you get out of queen g6? Oh, you know what she could do? I've just realized something. If knight f5 takes, she could play queen b4, because then after queen g6, king g8, queen e8, she has queen f8 to guard the king. Oh man, just difficult. She'll have queen b4. Yeah, she will take the knight. She will take the knight because then she has this move to then bring the queen back to here. That's sad. And then even if I take a pawn or two, this pawn is the most important. She can support it from the back rank. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. So you know what? We're gonna take the bishop because at least if we take the bishop, we are a piece up for a moment. And she has to prove what she has. And I'm gonna take the bishop with the, not the pawn, but with the king. Let's do it. Let's do it. She's pushing because... Why is she pushing? I was hoping that now we have queen e6, because then we are threatening a perpetual check. What does she want to do? Queen e6 or queen d7? Or queen h5? I mean, we have many squares to try to come here. Queen e6 or queen d7? What's her defense? Does she just want to give this check and then come back here? Maybe that's what she wants. I mean, she's got a pawn because then I cannot stop the pawn. I cannot stop the pawn. I could try to do the same from c8. So I'm threatening the same perpetual check, but I also am closer to this pawn. So if queen c8, check here to get the queen here, at least then I can stop her pawn. At least I can come here or here and stop it. I think we still have a chance. I think we still have a chance. Guys are saying that g takes h3 was a draw and king takes is losing. Well, I'm not a machine, so I of course have no idea. I have no idea. I'm just trying to figure this out with my human brain. That's all I have. I'm gonna play queen c8 and see what does she do against this idea. So this is expected. This is expected. h5. Okay, so instead of queen h5, she plays pawn to h5. And now that means that if I give this check, she could push and then here, or she could go to h6 immediately. And that's pretty much the end of my checks. That's the end of my checks. Thank you so much for the subscription, a real potato. I really appreciate it. Thank you. We are lost here. I understand it. But we're gonna still try to do something. A miracle. We need a miracle at this stage. We need a miracle. But what if miracles exist? What if after queen f5 check, I don't know first of all if she'll play g6 or king h6, but if king h6, I could come back to the back rank, and if she promotes, I still have queen h8, king g6. No, I don't have that. Because I'm gonna run out of checks. I'm gonna run out of checks. I could also try to get the knight into the game, but I think it's too late. Wait, queen f5, king h6, queen d7. I'm threatening knight f5 and take this. I'm pretty sure there's a refutation to it, but at least I have a threat. At least I have a threat. If I start with knight f5, I'm pretty sure I get checkmated before I could get here. So I'm thinking maybe what she wants is queen f5, g6, queen d7, king h6. And that's where I no longer have checks. I no longer have checks. If I play queen f7, she pushes, queen f8, king g5, and she has hidden her king. I think this is the end of the line. She's escaping from the checks and she's gonna promote. Good game, Beth, good game. It's something to learn from. Guys, it doesn't help me if you tell me the engine evaluation. I know that my position is lost. I still am trying to figure it out because I think it's still an interesting position. But it doesn't make sense to drop engine evaluations in the chat. Like, I have not asked for it. I think I have not. So we're gonna go for that line and see how she reacts. I think she will play g6. Your check doesn't concern me. She doesn't play g6 though. She's playing king h6, and this is where I thought that now if I go queen d7, at least I'm threatening knight f5. I'm pretty sure there are a couple of ways in which she can face that, but it's something. It's something. If queen c8 to threaten this, again, it's not a big deal because even if I get to give the check in the corner, king g6, queen e8, king g5, so she's running away. I think my last hope, my last chance is queen d7 to set up this idea of knight e5. Maybe that's where she's gonna go g6. She could do that. Let's see. Let's play out this and see if she plays g6 here. And so she does. She prevents knight f5 and I have no more checks. I can go for the last few checks by placing the queen on the back rank, by placing it here. So I'm gonna have 1 or 2 more checks. And that's the end of the game. That is the end of the game. Funny thing is, there's a motive here for me that if I get my queen to the back rank, one of the back rank squares, then I have a motive with knight g4, and if that's taken, queen check here, and that would pick up the queen. Well, the problem is when she promotes, her new queen is guarding this queen. So even that one idea, if queen d8, knight g4, even that one idea does not work because she will go to g5 with the king and this new queen will be guarding this queen. Sag. How about we give up the knight? That would only work if my queen was already here. We are one move away from making it work, but that one move is just not there. Because if my queen was here, then knight f5 takes queen f6, we are good. I mean, even then she would have king g5. There's just not a hope where we can make this work, but we're gonna make one last attempt. And that will be, if I give this check, takes, queen takes, I'm still threatening this. Well, maybe she doesn't even take. Maybe she just says knight f5, king g5. But then I have queen g7, threatening queen h6 checkmate. I mean, I don't believe in any of this. I think this position is dead lost, but I am just pointing out that there are a few more tricks. And if my opponent was a human being, maybe she could fall for some of them. I don't think Beth the bot will fall for any of this, but let's give this last check. Your check doesn't concern me. I know that, Beth. I know. So now if I take, because that was the idea, to threaten these checks. I want to give perpetual. She definitely will find a way to counter all this, but let's see how. At least she has a task. At least she has a task to do. Okay, so now if I come here, she has this check and the queen will be guarding everything, so I want my king here. Oh, well, the same issue. After this check, the queen comes back and that's game over because later this pawn will promote. It was a good game, Beth. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the lesson, Beth Harmon. This is pretty much over. You could easily resign here, but I'm gonna play it out a little bit more. I think it's gonna be instructive. So now the only way I can stop the pawn is queen f1. Or if I want to still try to give perpetual, I can bring the queen to the back rank. The issue with this move is that she could just force the queen trade after queen c8, queen g4 check, and that king and pawn game is gonna be lost because she promotes next move. So my only hope, bring the queen here. I mean, it's not a real hope. This is absolutely completely lost. But she still needs to make a few moves like king g6 to guard this pawn, and then she wants to activate the queen to support the pawn. So she will need, in order to promote this pawn, she needs the support of the queen. So she still has to find a way to get her queen to the support of this pawn without getting perpetual check. So I have a tiny hope that she cannot achieve that. The problem is that this is not the only way to get there. She could also just give this check and then push h4. I think that's pretty much her idea, because as soon as she can force the queen trade, and by trading here and moving the queen here, she will force a queen trade and then her pawn is promoting. So queen g4, h4 is her idea. I don't think I can stop it. I don't think I can stop it. Because even if I stop this check, that doesn't stop it fully. As soon as she trades, even if that means losing that pawn, who cares about this pawn when she's promoting next move? So this is game over. Let's let her play it out. We're just gonna make a waiting move and let her play that line out with queen g4, h4. It's instructive. Watch yourself. I know, Beth. You have won the game. If I take, she possibly will not even take back but give this check immediately. Shall we see if she's gonna go for that? Shall we see? Queen f4. GG. Good game, Beth. Good game. Time to resign. And now you resign, right? Now you resign. Why not queen a1? Well, there were loads of why not moments. So let's go through this game a little bit. Especially since some of you said that if I had taken on h3 with the pawn, it would have been a draw. Why is that a draw? It doesn't tell me any draws. Okay, let's start from the very end, because some of you also asked why not queen a1, which I guess is a good point to stop this pawn, but I think everything falls apart then on the king side, even if I attack this pawn. Many ways to do it. She'll give this check and then take this pawn and guard it, so it's only temporary that I can stop the pawn. It doesn't really help on the long run. I think the one interesting moment was this, because here I truly believed that I may have a chance. I still thought that this could work out. Apparently it doesn't matter, even if I take back with the pawn, it's still winning for black. I was calculating here, what was I was saying this move. Oh, no, that's a mistake, because then queen c8. Wait, no. Oh, no, I wanted to play this move. That's also not the best. So I didn't see the best move for Beth. What's the best move here then? What is it that the computer wants to play? Queen c1. I was looking at queen e1. I don't see the difference between queen c1 and queen e1. Or is it just that after knight f5 she wants to take this pawn? So if knight f5, she takes the pawn. That's the difference that the computer is pointing out. Queen takes c2. And then push. And this is what I was saying, that even if I get my knight and queen here, I'm one move too slow. One move too slow. So yeah, all of these were losing. Even g takes, and I was spending so long on this decision as if it mattered, but apparently it did not matter. Apparently it did not matter. The earlier positions, I think all of this was really bad. I was regretting quite a lot. Knight h4. Even if it's not like it's still saying about equal, but it has become really unpleasant from here on because black's idea is super straightforward. Rook b2, rook b8, queen a3, all of those moves are very obvious moves. And as for white, I need to be very precise, and I clearly didn't play the best moves. It's telling me that king h2 and a4 were the two best moves for white, and I was not considering any of those. I was not looking at any of those, I was looking at anything but that. I was looking at rook b1, I was thinking c4, I was thinking knight f5. So the two best moves here I have not even considered. I felt like if I push a4, it's only temporary, that it fixes the issue. I felt like the pawn will be still a liability after rook b2, rook b8 and such. But yeah, I should have realized that maybe if I push, I can stay alive. It's telling me that the best is a4, rook b2 and a5. You know, just don't care. Don't care that there's a rook in my belly, this queen c5 and bishop b3 and whatnot. It's telling me, don't worry, girl. Not my type of seeing chess. I wouldn't think that white is doing well here. To the human eye, I feel like this position is already downhill. It may be possible to defend, but it's not an easy one. I think here I would already feel really uncomfortable. I guess the one thing I didn't realize that is if I push the pawn, it's not only for defensive purposes, but also to counterattack the a7 pawn. So I believe that's the idea of the engine, that I can still try to get this pawn, even if it means giving up my pawns, but I would have a pass pawn. And this idea I did not see. It's something we can learn from. It's something we can learn from Beth at the age of 22. Thank you so much, Beth, for the lesson. This has been definitely a valuable lecture. And I'm gonna take on a challenge in the near future. I feel like I want to challenge Beth again, sometime in the near future. What did you guys think of the game? Let me know, what did you think of the game? Thank you so much for watching. This was streamed live on my Twitch channel, where I stream full time, 5 days a week. Do catch us live next time, or follow the highlights and the VODs here on my YouTube channel. In either case, I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much again, and bye for now, until the next time.